Chapter 3 on being fruitful and multiplying. As I said in the last chapter, I come from a large family, so I guess having a lot of kids comes natural to me. My wife and I have 9 kids. In fact, my wife, Lillian, has so many babies at the same hospital in Chicago, they put a revolving door on her room in the maternity ward. A few years back, some southern white folks used to badmouth me for having so many kids. A friend of mine once told me that Governor Wallace of Alabama even accused me of trying to grow my own race. I can't comment from personal experience upon the relationship between proper diet and fertility. Lily and I chalked up quite a record of fruitfulness before we became full of fruit. And with all the family planning enthusiasts telling us the family of the future should have no more than 2.5 kids, the less I say about fertility, the better. I would have to say, though, that a couple has a better chance of producing that half a kid if they are eating wrong than if they are eating right. But it does stand to reason that life should spring most naturally from life. When a couple feeds upon Mother Nature's living diet, fruits and vegetables, they should have a better chance of bringing new life into the world than if they are feeding themselves upon death, the cooked flesh of animals that have been killed. I have 7 girls and 2 boys. My cast of children, in order of appearance, is Michelle, Lynn, Pamela, and Paula, my twins, Stephanie, Gregory, Missy, Christian, and the newest member of the cast, Ayana. I beg your indulgence of a proud father as he comments on some of the names. The twins, Pamela and Paula, have the middle names Inti and Grayshawn, which of course combine to form the word of integration. The twins' middle names will be a reminder throughout their lives that during the period of her pregnancy, their mother was jailed in Selma, Alabama, while demonstrating for freedom, justice, and the cause of human dignity in an integrated society. My oldest son, Gregory, has just one name. His birth certificate does not read Gregory, but rather simply Gregory. In the American system, whose computers, bureaucracy, and institutional requirements demand 2 names to function, my son Gregory is a symbol of independence of the built-in entanglements which predetermine the destiny of the 2 namers in a controlled society. Gregory's younger sister, on the other hand, has 2 names. She is Miss Gregory. At the time of her birth, racial hang-ups in the United States made it difficult for some white folks to call a black woman Miss and a black man Mr. So to be on the safe side, my wife and I named our daughter Miss. All her life, anyone who calls her by her proper name will have to say Miss Gregory. My youngest daughter has the African name Ayana, which means beautiful flower. She is the child closest to Mother Nature from birth, having been conceived and born during the most advanced period of her parents' nutritional awareness and appreciation of the natural way of life. As a true child of Mother Nature, she shares kinship with a beautiful flower. Earlier this year, in 1972, I got my second wife. Don't get me wrong, I didn't remarry. My marriage bond with Lillian has not been broken, but I have a new Lillian. Lillian began the year with a diet of 3 months of fruit juice, after which she went on 40 days of only water. Her weight dropped from 200 to 140 pounds, and her dress size diminished from 22.5 to 14. But in all honesty, I would have to say I am Lillian's 3rd husband. When we married, I was on the slender side. Then I ballooned up to 280 plus figure described in the last chapter. And now I am below 100 pounds, much less than my weight when we were married. I guess we're one of those few couples who can claim a second wife and a 3rd husband and never have engaged in bigamy, polygamy, or divorce. Although my whole family is now on the same diet, some of the kids have shared the dietary transitions of their parents. 4 of the girls were in the family while I was still a carnivore. I also had a son, Richard Claxton Gregory Jr., who died in 1962 at the age of 2.5 months. The twins, however, were just a little over a year old when I became a vegetarian, so they hadn't had a chance yet to be heavy into meat eating. I am often asked if I get a lot of family resistance when I make a dietary change in the household. Over the years, I have developed a system for making those changes, which seems to work very well. I pick certain key times in the year, like when school closes for the summer or opens again in the fall or the first of the new year, and announce to the family in advance when a certain dietary change will take place. I have found it helpful for the kids to be given a chance to prepare for a change in their eating habits rather than having it sprung on them suddenly. This method is called benevolent dictatorship. The first big change in the family diet was the elimination of the meat from the menu, but I didn't drop all meat from the diet overnight. I did over a 6-month period, which might be a helpful pattern for anyone who wants to become a vegetarian. For the first 3 months, the family menu included only fish and chicken. After the 3 months had elapsed, we dropped chicken and permitted only fish for the next 3 months. Next to go were candy, potato chips, salted peanuts, cookies, donuts, and all of the other snack items one buys at the supermarket or candy store. At the same time, we dropped white bread, replacing it with brown bread, and white refined sugar, which was first replaced with brown sugar and then with honey. There were no racial overtones in dropping all that white stuff from the diet. It was merely the conviction that the so-called enriched and refined products were really bleached, denatured, and devitalized. You make out of that what you will. Then we dropped milk, cheese, and eggs. Finally, after wiping out the dairy barn and the hen house, we stopped eating cooked foods entirely and reached the present stage of the family menu. Only raw fruits and raw vegetables and their juices after the nursing period has ended. The only dietary changes since dropping cooked foods have been with regard to seasoning, like eliminating salt and pepper in favor of more natural herb and seed seasonings. The major change I have noticed as a parent as new offspring come into the Gregory household and start off with proper eating habits is the absence of the usual children's sickness. What most folks call the normal childhood diseases just simply do not exist for us. There are no running noses in my household, and if anyone calls one of my offspring a snot-nosed kid, it is purely metaphorical. Even the dictionary will admit that to snivel is to snuff mucus up the nose audibly. And where proper eating habits eliminates excess mucus in the body, the need for sniveling is gone. So I now have kids in my household who may never know what a medical doctor looks like, unless they just happen to bump into one on the street, or unless they break an arm or a leg. Of course, this was not always the case, and surprisingly, it was not always the case even after the changes in diet. For at first, after the family diet began to include more and more fruit and fruit juices, the kids began to develop rashes and other skin problems. In the winter, rashes appeared where their heavy wool coats rubbed against their neck. I took them to a skin specialist who gave them vitamin E ointment. We used the ointment, continued the same diet, and the skin problems eventually disappeared. Then I learned what had been causing the problems. It was not the diet, but rather the effects of improper eating habits before the change in diet. The fruits and juices were having a cleansing effect on the system, and the stored up poisons and mucus were being eliminated from the body and coming out through the pores. I remember an experience we had with Pamela, one of the twins. Sometime after her diet had been changed, a knot appeared on her arm about the size of an egg. I thought it was rather strange that eggs removed from her diet would appear on her arm. So I took her to Dr. Roland J. Sidney of Chicago, our family naturopath. A naturopath is a doctor of the natural healing arts. Dr. Sidney massaged Pamela's arm during a series of treatments, and all of a sudden, one day the egg disappeared. Dr. Sidney explained that the knot on her arm was collected mucus which had settled in that particular spot. When she was a baby, Pamela had a chest condition with a great amount of mucus in her chest. When her diet changed, the mucus began breaking down and draining out, and for some reason it settled in the one spot on her arm. My experience is an important lesson for anyone who begins to follow a natural diet. You can expect to have problems. The degree of difficulty will depend on how bad your diet has been before. The stored up poisons and waste in the system will start coming out, and you are bound to feel the effects, rashes or headaches or whatever. But don't be alarmed. If you hadn't changed your diet, you would probably not have felt the effects for a few more years. Then the poisonous byproducts of improper eating might have hit you all at once in the form of cancer, arthritis, cirrhosis, or some other major catastrophic ailment. When the quite natural, normal physical manifestations of a system being cleaned out appear, go to a naturopath or a chiropractor for treatment. They will work with Mother Nature rather than against her. They will be able to provide natural, non-chemical treatment, massages, realignments, adjustments, and other ways of assisting Mother Nature's natural processes. Or you can provide home treatment. When swelling appears, massage the area gently and often. Also, dilute the fruit and vegetable juices consumed by adding pure water to them. Above all, do not stop the natural diet. Do not become alarmed that something in the diet is causing physical disorders. The diet is causing the body to regain health, and it must first undo the damage done by earlier eating habits. There's a great fringe benefit of eating a natural diet, and it is a shame more poor folks don't realize it. The absence of sickness means no doctor bills. From my experience in life, I would say most poor folks spend about a third of their time and earnings treating illnesses, caring for sick members of the family, paying doctor bills and hospital expenses, buying medicines. And of course, there are the folks who can least afford such a toll. I have often said poor folks should eat more like rich folks and rich folks should eat more like poor folks. I would not advocate that anyone eat the wrong kind of food, but if anyone does, it should be the wealthy because they can afford the medical expenses which are sure to follow bad eating. In reality, eating habits are just the opposite. The rich eat well, as society defines this, and the poor eat poorly. Rich carnivores can afford the choicest, freshest meats. They can afford the luxury of garden-fresh vegetables and orchid-fresh fruits. Many rich folks have their own gardens and orchards. It is also interesting to note that the homes of the wealthiest families have a tendency to be located in truck-farming areas, giving the rich immediate access to freshly grown and freshly cultivated crops. Poor folks, on the other hand, take their food stamps or their meager earnings to the supermarket. They buy canned foods, frozen foods, TV dinners, white breads, pastries, and all other kinds of commercially processed junk. The meats, vegetables, and fruits in the supermarkets in poor communities are always of the lowest quality and are sold at the highest prices. The results is that poor folks pay more to eat their way into even greater expenses. Mothers and fathers in poor communities work so hard to earn money to feed their families, and they have such a difficult time making ends meet. The real tragedy is that they do not realize it is cheaper to feed those families correctly than it is to purchase the junk diet. For example, the prices of meat, milk, and eggs are always skyrocketing. Each time there is a price hike, it hurts the poor more than anyone else. Yet meat, milk, and eggs are all items poor folks and all other folks will be better off not eating. Let me close with a few parent-to-parent words. Raising kids is such a chore these days. You're supposed to learn how to reason with them and communicate with them rather than punishing them as in the old days. It was a lot different when I was a kid. I remember when my daddy wanted to punish me, he'd just say, "Get on upstairs to your room," which was a terrible punishment because there wasn't any upstairs. I remember one time I told my daddy, "Dad, If you don't give me a nickel, I'm going to run away from home. He didn't even blink as he said, I'm not giving you one single penny, and take your brothers with you. To show how different things are now, not long ago, my daughter Lynn announced, Dad, I'm running away from home. Call me a cab. I said, Lynn, honey, you don't know how lucky you are. When I was your age, my family was poor. We never even had enough to eat. Rats and roaches in the house, no heat or hot water in the winter. Lynn broke in and said, Dad, aren't you glad you're living with us now? Kids are so sophisticated these days. I just found out the other day, you don't walk into the kids' room anymore. You have to knock first. And hip. I found out how really hip kids are a number of years ago on Christmas Eve. I went into my oldest daughter's room and told Michelle to go to sleep before Santa Claus came. She said, Dad, I don't believe in Santa Claus. I exclaimed, What do you mean you don't believe in Santa Claus? And she shot back, because you know darn good and well no white man's going to be in our neighborhood past midnight. When you make changes in your own family menu, be prepared to have some very energetic kids on your hand. The energy level of my children is higher than ever before. They sleep well when they should be sleeping. They are very alert and extremely active when they should be up and enjoying life to its fullest. Be prepared also to face the problems of others trying to impose wrong eating habits on your children. So many folks will feel sorry for your kids because they are not allowed to eat the things so-called normal kids eat. Remember, it is your kids who should feel sorry for the others' eating habits. If a snack is served in school, you must inform school officials on your children's diet and send over the food your kids are to eat if the school cannot satisfactorily provide it. I have found it necessary to cut out party attendance for my kids almost entirely. They only go to birthday parties and the like at the homes of very close friends. My close friends understand that my children will take their own food with them. If the kids stop by a friend's home after school, the parents are informed they are not to be served absolutely anything. I don't trust juices served away from my home, as they are usually canned or frozen. And I don't even want my kids drinking tap water if I can help it. Don't be shocked, surprised, or alarmed at your kids' change in appearance when you start following the natural diet. There will frequently be weight loss, especially in the face. Parents sometimes become worried because they associate chubbiness with health. That theory is the only rationalization of an ill-fed America. Finally, in a family where the diet is wholesome and natural and the family members enjoy increased health, vitality, energy, and mental capacity, there is also more love in the home. There is more love present because the true mama of us all has taken up residence. When Mother Nature comes to live in your home or apartment, the whole family shares the blessings and feels the vibrations of her maternal love like the warm glow of the rays of her morning sun.